Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Freddy and today I just want to talk about a book that I read some months ago, but somehow I just didn't have the time to make a video talking more in details about it. This is Olga Tokarczuk's Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. This book was originally written in Polish, was translated into the English by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. I read this book, I think it was before September, I can't remember when, and I really enjoyed it. I actually bought this book as a new book. I went to the bookstore one day, and then I saw this book on the shelf. And then I guess I just happened to have the money, and so I used that money to buy this book. It cost me about, let's see, oh my gosh, it actually cost me about 60 ringgit, and that is probably like, I don't know, around $20 US dollars, I think. I'm not sure, but anyway, when I read this book, I really enjoyed it, and I feel that everyone should read this book because, okay, Olga Tokarczuk, she was a Nobel Prize winner in literature, but that's not the reason why I recommend this to everybody. Typically, for me at least, when I think of a Nobel Prize winner or stuff like this, you would probably imagine that their body of work tend to be a little bit more serious and heavy and important. And that, I guess it's probably true. And I think this book has some important and serious stuff in it as well. But I feel that this book, when I was reading it, I felt it was really relaxing. It felt like a really nice story book, It's not the kind of book that you read and then you feel that you have to really focus on the themes and, those heavy things in here. This is the kind of book that you can just read to relax, and that's certainly what I did. While I was reading this book, I was suddenly very relaxed, and I really enjoyed reading the story in here because it's just so much fun. Central to this book is the main character named Janina. She's an old woman, and I kind of like stories with old woman as a main character because they tend to have an interesting perspective, and Janina certainly has an interesting perspective in this book. She's also the narrator in this book, so you'll definitely hear tons and tons of what she has to say. Maybe slightly too much sometimes, but I guess that gives this book its distinct flavor. So what happens in this book is we actually start with the discovery of a dead neighbor, the neighbor of Janina. It happens one night, and she discovers that the neighbor has died, and apparently the neighbor died because he choked on a deer bone, I think. And of course, people who checked it, they kind of say that, oh yeah, he dies because of natural causes, But Janina, she is so convinced that this neighbor died because he's murdered. And just want to say that Janina and this neighbor is not exactly best friends. But anyway, Janina, she thinks that this guy is murdered. And who murders this guy? She theorizes that perhaps it's the deers that are exacting revenge on this guy, because this guy is someone who hunts, who does not really respect nature, while Janina is someone who really she has strong passion towards nature and environment and all that. So she thinks that the deers are bringing vengeance to this neighbor, and of course naturally many people do not believe that. Another thing about Janina is that she is someone who does astrology, and so she often checks the astrological charts, interprets them for various characters in this book without them requesting her to do so. And so sometimes when she's trying to make sense of things, when she wants to explain certain things to other characters, she would use astrology. And I think after the discovery of this neighbor's death, there are also other deaths happening. And for each of those deaths, Janina actually theorizes those deaths as murder by animals or the nature or whatever. And she would also include astrology in her explanation and her rationale as to why these people got murdered and all that. And again, no one believes her. Like, the police does not believe her. And for me, while I was reading this book, it got to a point where I was kind of thinking that what kind of direction that this book was going to take. Was it going to really follow the suspicion of Janina and just get into this whole weird, fantastical, I don't know, magical side of astrology, or is it going to stay grounded? And turns out that the killer is just, the killer is just someone normal, or maybe it's going to get even more grounded, and that there is actually no killers, and all of these people are just, they just died of natural causes, and Janina is just overreacting. There are so many possibilities that I was thinking about while I was reading this book, and it got me really interested in it. I was really invested in this book. Another reason why I just find this book so engaging is that you hear tons of what Janina has to say. She's an older woman, and so she has her own perspective. But on top of that, she is also very headstrong. Like, she has this persistent attitude where whenever she wants to get her points across, when she wants to get the hunters to be banned from the forest and all that, when she goes to the police and talk about this to them, people of course they do not listen to her, because they probably think that she's just a yammering old woman. And I think that this is going to be kind of interesting also, something to take note of if you ever get into this book, because Janina has that facade of a meek, weak old woman, and so a lot of people underestimate her. But actually, you'll see that this character has tons of depths. Like, she is smart. Like, she is not only smart in terms of stuff like astrology, or with her passion towards nature. She is also smart. She used to be an engineer, and she also currently works as a teacher, teaching little kids English, so she knows her foreign language. And she also reads literature, she reads poetry. In fact, the title of this book comes from a line of poetry. So Janina is a very smart person, very, very intelligent. So you have this really interesting character with very nice depth, and that is contrasted with how other characters are seeing her based on the facade that she is presenting to other people. I really, really like that. I really like that this character is not just someone who is so plain and kind of like a cardboard cutout, but really just a very, very nice and interesting character. Not sure if it's, if this character is going to be wonderful to be around with in real life, but as a reader reading about her story in a book, I certainly like this character. So another thing that I really like about this one is, like I said earlier, this book is kind of a relaxing read, and I certainly had that experience while I was reading this book. I feel like you could totally read this book, say when you are commuting, or when you are doing something else, like when you are relaxing, when you are snuggling in bed in your blanket, when it's raining or snowing outside, when you are relaxing at a cafe, sipping your expensive coffee, when you are taking your bath, or when you are sitting on the toilet. Those are the things that you can do while reading this book, and the experience would be so nice and you'll probably get a giggle or two out of this. But I think that it's just a really, really lovely book. It's kind of like a beach read for me, and overall, I think that the experience was just so wonderful. So in short, if you want something that is relaxing, if you want a book that has an old woman character, if you want a book that has a little bit of murder mystery-ish element to it, if you want a book that talks a lot about environment and gets a little bit too preachy about that, this is the book for you. But even if those are the things that you are not looking for in a book, and if you have not read this book, I think you could still try it and see how it fits with your reading taste. As for me, I just enjoyed it so much, so regardless, I'll recommend this to everybody. That's it for Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk, and I'll see you again in a different video. So until then, take care. Thanks for watching, and bye!